interesting.
I'm so scruffy, Bracha.
I know, we're both scruffy. Look at me, my hat doesn't matter, Pammy. It's just like, I just had a feeling this might be of interest. Look at me, I've got a radiator behind me because it's cold. Come on, at least you've got fancy cushions. So, no, because I've been thinking a lot more about this month and the USA's Pluto return. Right, it's really, really significant. And so Pluto Capricorn and the Neptune opposition.
Yep.
So Neptune opposition suggests possibly how much we've been duped, how much the American public have been duped and don't know what really the truth is behind the corporate structures, the government structures, the voting, the elections, the money. What's your feeling on this, Pammy?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, their next so-called natal 1776 Neptune is at 22 of Virgo and transiting Neptune 22 Pisces, so direct opposition across 3rd and 9th houses. So, you know, 3rd and 9th is to do with the media, communication. Neptune itself is to do with the media because it's the illusion, as it were, film, video, the media. It's also connected to hypnosis, psychosis. It's also connected to drugs, pharmaceuticals. So, you know, there's potentially a lot there about what's true and what's not at the same time as we've got that Pluto return. And transiting Neptune is actually forming a T-square to as I remember, the USA Mars is at 21 of Gemini, so that becomes a T-square to the natal square between Neptune Mars. So, you know, that can be very interesting in terms of any misguided aggressive action potentially, or, you know, aggression at sea or that kind of thing. So, you know, there's a lot there in that symbolism. So I think we just always have to find the highest expression. And what is wonderful is with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction coming up, there is so much magic in that that can take us to another dimension, another perspective, another frequency. Yes. And with every astrological aspect, as we know, we can express it in a lower expression or a higher expression. And we've got to become masters of always finding the higher expression and choosing it consciously and say, you know, I can see that lower expression. I'm not going to go there. I am going to consciously choose, because I have a choice. I've always got a choice of the higher road. Yes. And we have to do this year more than ever because it's such a pivotal year of events, I think.
Yes, beautifully put, Pammy, yes. And I think as well, what's being activated in terms of, if we look at the archetypal emotions of those two planets, Pluto and Neptune, on the negative end would be fear, tremendous trauma, pain.
Yes. Existential,
right? And it's going into the abyss. Yeah, so it's really, that's the potential energy of the Pluto, and then the potential energy of the Neptune is confusion, a drug state, a powerless, a victim.
Yep.
And so there's all this swirl of energy that's up for healing, right? It's up. Neptune energy, especially Virgo Pisces energy, is this whole potential for a massive shift in our emotional maturity, how we deal with our emotions personally and collectively. And
yeah, well said. And I think it's actually a spiritual maturity as well.
Yes. And doesn't it play into us personally, you know, as figures that we say things sometimes? I think you've had a bit of kickback from emails and responses from people sending some pretty toxic messages. I get that. I mean, I think you've had that recently, haven't you, Pammy? I don't know if you want to talk about it, but
yeah,
I think
not a lot really. It's very, very unusual, and it's not nice energy, and so we can choose again how we respond to that, and it is very unusual. So I'm very lucky, and I know it's very unusual for you, but I just think I don't want this in my energy field. So
but just know that if you send somebody something pretty toxic, it does have an effect. Every thought you have, every energy that you put, there is a cause and effect. And I think that we have to catch ourselves if we're doing it.
And always think, is this coming from love?
Yeah,
and the impact that it will have, is that going to be coming from love? My love for that person. Because if it isn't, think again. Because things ripple out, and they ripple back to you as well as rippling out. And I think that's what's so important. And if Viktor Frankl can find meaning in a concentration camp, and if Dr. Edith Eger can go through Auschwitz and Birkenau and survive all that she did without an ounce of victimhood, blame, finger pointing, and come out as a shining, resilient, spirited soul, then we can too in our days.
Exactly. And I think that America is the most powerful nation in the world, because it's the reserve currency. It's got all the big control of the world that it's had. And now it has to look at Neptune, the higher octave of love, as you're talking about, and taking people to a new world. This is and I still think America has to lead the way here. It's not that we don't all play a role, but there's no accident that February this month is this activation. I mean, does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. And because it's such a huge one, because it only happens every 246 years, and this is the first time it's happened for the US since the USA in its current form was born. So it's bound to be massive. And because of the other aspect you mentioned, the Neptune opposition, and also the square to natal Mars as well, and that that Pluto conjunction is also being very activated on the 3rd of March by Venus and Mars as well. It's a triple conjunction on the exact degree. So wow, so that's a big astrological signature for something to unfold for the US. And it isn't just on that day. It isn't just on the 22nd of February when we get the first Pluto hit. It isn't just on the 3rd of March when Venus and Mars are there too. It's going to last for at least 2 years and going to have many reverberations as the US goes through its spiritual transformation, I'd say. Yeah,
it is. And to me, it is, how can you say, when we talked about in our other conversation about Saturn Pluto being dead obvious, this is dead obvious as well. It's a longer trajectory, but boy, you can't miss a Pluto return of the most powerful nation that we have, as well as the Neptune opposition, the Mars. I mean, it's like it's all coming at once.
And so much of it, so much is about power, isn't it? I mean, Pluto is the planet of power. It was, discovered in 1930, around the time when we were understanding, the atom and the atomic bomb, and think plutonium. So it is the ultimate expression of power, and Neptune can be the ultimate expression of powerlessness, as you say. So we're back to big issues of power. Where does the power lie for you as an individual, and collectively, where does the power lie? And for me, this has been a huge thing in my videos of saying, that we have deferred largely as a society because we've been polite and obedient to external references of power. But maybe this is the time in our spiritual mastery that has to shift, to recognize that we are our own source of power. And we can even, I believe, create the cosmos. We can even create it.
Beautiful.
So, and we have no conception, I don't think yet, in general, of our power, how powerful we are. No. And that's all to come. We're just at the precipice of all that.
We're just at the gate.
It'd be very exciting. But to pick up on the questions to the Pleiadians the other night, there is such a massive fork in the road, depending on the choices we make. We must be very alert and conscious to those choices, because they'll either take us on this road or a very, very different road. And as you follow those trajectories, it gets harder to hop between one and the other. You know, you're setting your sails to a particular direction. And it's harder to kind of tack and get back over there. It's a tougher, so, you know, be very, very conscious and wise and thoughtful in every decision you make, and really think, is this coming from love for myself, but also love for the other person or the other people I'm affecting with this.
Yes, and I think beautifully put, Pammy. And I think that with the Capricorn energy, simply because Pluto in Capricorn suggests that structures are going to, those that are sick and, shall we say, not serving the whole, are likely to crumble at this time. But we also need to look at what are the structures that we want to create and build.
Absolutely, 100%. Saturn in Aquarius, new social structures. Yeah.
Yes. And then Pluto in Aquarius coming. You know,
absolutely.
We're moving towards Pluto in Aquarius. So to me, things begin to speed up as we move towards 2025. It's like, whoosh, yeah, then Uranus in Gemini, it's like everything in this air sign energy, and Neptune in Aries, it's like it all comes fire and air energy. Right now, we've got to get to the real meat and potatoes around power, as you said, and noticing when you are hemorrhaging power.
When you're in fear. When you're in fear, you hemorrhage power.
Yeah. And you
when you're in love, you come back to self.
And you cannot then activate the higher frequency of Neptune, which would be your intuition.
Yeah. Yeah, you block it off, because, you know, you get the cortisol rush and the intuition doesn't work. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
And even this week, because Mercury has now gone direct and all the planets are going to be direct, as we know, till the end of April. And also this coming week, we have Mars in Capricorn, 9 of Capricorn, trying to Uranus at 10 of Taurus. That Mars, and that's exact, I think, on the 8th, but it'll continue for the next week. And that Mars-Uranus trine is about new, it's quick. Both Mars and Uranus are speedy, come on, you know, but also they're about new social structures that we're building for the long term, Capricorn.
Yes.
And so we're building them, you know, we've got to get on with it. There's a speediness, but we are also thinking very much of the long term and finding our like-minded group. And that's happening in just all over the place. People are linking up with people of like mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is happening. And if you're feeling alone, and if you feel like you're going into the abyss, because I think many are feeling that, what I can say to you is, as hard as it is, welcome that and face it. Because a lot of the fears that you've been ruled by, overpowered by, if you've been running from them, they've got power over you. But if you will, if you like, run towards them and say, hello, all right, hi, you may find that they just disappear. It's a bit like the Hydra. Yeah, who was it that was cutting the heads? Oh, what was his name? Sorry, the mythological, I should know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't remember either, but I know what you mean.
But every time he cut off lust, fear, or greed, or whatever, another 3 heads came. Yeah. But eventually, when everything was brought into the light of day, the dragon was slain.
Mm-hmm. And that's very much, I mean, it's Carl Jung's work, isn't it, about making your fears conscious, and then you can release them, you can let them go, you can deal with them. But if they're unconscious, they're much harder to deal with. So yes. Yeah, just work through them in whatever toolkit you have.
Yeah. And I think we'll find also some kind of a polarity still, because of all these oppositional energies, as you've been mentioning, Pammy, between the behaviors of people. Yes, some people will say, yep, sure. I believe the government, and I believe that everything they're telling me is true. And I will just, you know, as you say, be very obedient. And then on the other side, we're going to get a big polarity, as I think we've been seeing, of the other reaction, and there's got to be something in between the two.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it, that Eris continues to square Pluto all this year. That Eris, you know, street fighter, won't tolerate injustice, inequality, any social marginalization, really wants spiritual equality, let's say. And she will absolutely not compromise or give in, you know, and that's a very long running square. And this is the last year of that square, so it's going to come to some kind of culmination or completion. And she has worked wonders against that top-down, you know, controlling structure. So be very interesting. But I think almost it's like pulling back a catapult, that we have to experience such a state of polarity that eventually, when it twings back, we'll come back into unity. And I think you're actually starting to see this, that we're recognizing we are one humanity. And there's going to be something bigger, perhaps, that will bring us together as one humanity.
Yes. Yeah.
And that may be necessary cosmically, as it were, to remind us we are one humanity. Beautiful. And then we'll take another step into unity.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we have to do it whether we like it or not. It's not a question of whether we like it. It's a question that it has to be, that we become one and we realize that we're one. Yeah. Absolutely. Beautifully put. Pammy, thank you so much. Another scruffy little chat there, but
even scruffier than the last time.
Oh, well, look, I'm in a scruffy balaclava here. Anyway, thank you very much, Pammy. Always a delight to be with you. Thank you. Yeah.